We're talking September promotions next on Fantasy Baseball Today Express. Welcome to FBT Express. I'm Chris Towers, joined by Scott White, and we are talking September prospect call-ups. Not all prospects. September roster expansion happened over the past few days, and kind of last round of prospects were called up, and we're still waiting on a few more guys, Scott. So we'll talk about those guys first, and then talk about the guys who were promoted. We've got... what percentage chance do you think there is that we'll see each of these next three guys over the final 3.5 weeks of the season? We'll start with Robbie Snelling, Marlins starting pitcher prospect. The Marlins currently only have 3 healthy starting pitchers. You would think.
You would think, but we've been, I've been banging the drum for Robbie Snelling for a few weeks now, and openings would be created and they'd find somebody else to fill them. So it seems like they're going out of their way not to promote Robbie Snelling. If it was me, I'd just promote him, because since reaching AAA, a 1.37 ERA in 9 starts, and his latest start here on Wednesday, he struck out 13 in 7 innings. So it's just getting better and better.
That's got to be it, right?
Yeah, I would think so. Obviously, he's not going to use up rookie eligibility. It seems like they'd want him contending for a rotation spot next year. After that misstep last year with the Padres, he seems to be back on track as a high-end pitching prospect. So I'll give Robbie Snelling a 66.6 repeated % chance of being called up.
Well, round it up to 66.7. What are the chances that the Cardinals call up infield prospect J.J. Weatherholt?
So he's deserves it. He's mastered AAA. He's handled the minors about as easily as Nick Kurtz and Jac Caglianone have, and I make that comparison because they're all part of the same draft class. So Weatherholt's right there. But it does feel like a situation where if they were going to do it, they would have done it by now.
Yeah,
because they've had Thomas Sajaci playing second base. They've had Nolan Gorman playing third base. What more do they really need to see from either of them? Weatherholt could play either of those spots in addition to shortstop. So I kind of thought we'd see him in late August and maybe September 1st. Sometimes we see players like high-end prospects promoted for the final weekend of the season, just to kind of give them a quick taste of the majors, and maybe that happens in J.J. Weatherholt's case. But I say it's probably like a 25% chance.
Yeah, the minor league season does end, 10 days before the major league season. So maybe some of these guys, they're waiting for that. Last one that we want to talk about, Brandon Sproat for the Mets. I thought if he got called up, it would be as a bullpen piece, but the Mets are talking about sending Kodai Senga down to the minors to work on stuff. Sean Manaea has been struggling. They've had a lot go wrong in the rotation lately, to the point where if they want to go with a 6-man rotation, they might need to call up Brandon Sproat. What do you think the chances that happens are?
Maybe 50-50. He was the most highly regarded Mets pitching prospect coming into the season and got off to a terrible start. Yeah. And so that's why Nolan McLean and Jonah Tong surpassed him. But his last 11 starts, Brandon Sproat has a 2.44 ERA, has 70 strikeouts in 59 innings. He's looking good again. And so if they do have a need, I imagine he'd be the next up.
All right. We got a couple of guys I want to talk about before we take a break. Let's go with Sal Stewart for the Reds. He's a second baseman. He's played pretty regularly in the few games he's been up. Do we expect him to be an everyday player for the Reds?
So let's see. Did he start Wednesday? Because he started the first 2 games at first base. And then on Wednesday, he was not in the lineup. Yeah. But he did pinch hit and played some third. Third is his natural position. He's second most position he played in the minors was second base, and then a tiny bit at first. So I think between those 3 spots in DH, Stewart will come close to playing every day. He took a big leap in terms of power at AAA. He's always had good plate skills, but seems like his prospect stock really took off late this year. And people seem most excited about the prospects that actually got called up September 1st. Sal Stewart's probably the most exciting.
Yeah, and then Jac Caglianone, not a prospect anymore. He was recalled from, I guess he was activated from the IL after at September, but it was basically a September promotion. They gave him a long time on his rehab assignment. It's been a struggle. His OPS for the season is below 500. Had a 107 mile per hour batted ball on Wednesday, but has not put it together yet. Still a lot to be excited about here, though, right?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. And, when he got injured, Caglianone was nearing that 2-month point of being in the majors, where oftentimes we see high-end hitting prospects turn the corner. By the sound of it, they want him around, but they're not just turning over a spot to him. He's done everything. There's nothing more he can accomplish at AAA. The 16 games he was there on his rehab assignment, /385, 467, 692, struck out less than 50% of the time. He's got that
solved
down.
That one, yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure the playing time is going to be regular enough for him to amount to much down the stretch, but Caglianone certainly has that potential.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back on FPT Express.
You can't count on Derek's tong skills.
Oh, Tony, I think it hit the ground.
But you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus.
All right, welcome back to FPT Express. Scott, we've got a handful of other guys who were called up when rosters were expanded on September 1st. Why don't you hit me with 3 or 4 that you find the most interesting for fantasy players to know about?
So obviously this isn't a prospect. He's been in the majors for a while now, but Ha-seong Kim was added to the Braves roster on a straight waiver claim from the Rays. And
it was the second biggest free agent contract the Rays have ever given out, and he didn't make it through the first season.
And he's just going to be their starting shortstop rest of season. So playing time was going to be questionable in Tampa, especially with Carson Williams getting called up. It's a big risk for the Braves because Ha-seong Kim has a $16 million player option for next year, which you have to assume he's going to pick up given the way this year's gone for him. So they're committed to paying him $16 million next year. But this is when healthy. He hasn't been healthy all year, recovered from shoulder surgery, then a couple IL stints for back issues. But when healthy, like a 15-homer, 30-steal guy with pretty good on-base skills, certainly a big upgrade from Nick Allen. And now he's an everyday player in a lineup that's looked really good in the second half. So Ha-seong Kim could quickly emerge as somebody worth using in fantasy. He just homered on Wednesday. So that's probably the most interesting. Let's talk about Harry Ford because he's probably the second best prospect after Sal Stewart, who got called up. He's been is a catcher for the Mariners, who obviously have the best catcher in baseball and somebody whose defense actually warrants him being behind the plate as often as possible. So where is the playing time for Ford? That's a big question, but this call-up is a tacit acknowledgement that he's a finished product at this point. Hit 283, 16 homers, 7 steals, and 868 OPS at AAA. Great on-base skills. Actually does steal some bases for a catcher.
He's played a little outfield.
He played outfield last year, but not at all this year, which it makes you wonder what kind of future Harry Ford could possibly have with the Mariners. I think he's just kind of they're kind of showcasing him for a trade this offseason. I don't know where else they have to go with Harry Ford unless they're willing to turn him into an outfielder full time. But you think he would have played some if that's the case. Let's see. How about we also go with I could have picked these guys out ahead of time. Let's do Kevin Alcantara of the Cubs, who technically does still qualify as a prospect. He got some time in the majors last year. He used to be a more highly regarded prospect. He came over from the Yankees. I think that was in the Anthony Rizzo trade a few years ago, and was just like an athletic marvel, 6'6". They hoped the skills would come, and they never quite did. The strikeout rate remained too high. He put the ball on the ground too often, but he wouldn't be the first of this type, that athletic marvel type, to kind of put it all together in the majors. It doesn't seem like there's enough of the opening in the Cubs outfield, though Kyle Tucker's a little banged up right now. Pete Armstrong's been struggling. Interestingly enough, Kevin Alcantara came up and Owen Casey got sent down. Casey, I feel like, is the more interesting player. But if you'll remember, they called him up with 46 days left in the season.
Like one day before.
They needed to send him back down for at least one day to preserve Owen Casey's rookie eligibility for next year. If Kyle Tucker or someone else between now and then ends up going on the IL, I could see a platoon forming between him and Casey for that final outfield spot. And then we'll see if they position themselves to matter next year.
All right, that's going to do it for FBT Express. We'll see you tomorrow.